Alright, it's pretty obvious that Destiny's core playlists are insanely lacking. No rewards, no new activities, no incentives other than some level ups every week. And yet, Bungie wants us to continue to play these playlists. Now, I'm personally not going to go into Crucible, as Ascendant Nomad already made a perfect video on that with great ideas. My goal of this video is to go on ahead and do the same thing, but instead of PvP, we handle the PvE side of things with strikes. Today's game plan is to add 6 new strikes to Destiny 2, each wholly unique with brand new encounters, set pieces, and story purposes. Bungie's been big on the past 2 expansions to really use strikes into the story mode of expansions, so we're going to be doing that here. Before we go in and do any real damage, I want to say this as well as put in a few disclaimers as well. 1. This ties into my new light rewrite, only slightly though, as a quest will go ahead and be given this as a new strike. 2. These strikes are just for fun and a creative idea. I love Destiny, but I'm not that big or well knowing of mechanics, nor do I know how to balance these things as they should be. I just want to have a fun system in mind that gives us more reasons to play strikes. 3. New variants of strikes mentioned in my rewrite will not count as new strikes. What I consider to be a variant strike is to have one or more encounters that is different from the main, such as handling a different final boss like Sepiks Perfected or Tanax Perfected. 4. These strikes will have strike-specific loot and rewards you can grind for. Each strike will reward a piece of armor and a weapon. The armor would replace what Zavala gives you for tokens and be completely original armor sets. Or maybe have the same armor just to give us the ornaments as well. Actually, we'll get into the last point later on. Now, when looking at the current strikes, what do we got? 3 on Earth, 3 on Nessus, 1 on Europa, 1 on the Moon, 3 on Tangled Shore, and 1 on Dreaming City. Combined, that gives us 12 strikes in game. Now let's compare that to Destiny 1 with only 5 locations. 5 on Earth, 3 on the Moon, 4 on Venus, 5 on Mars, and 2 on the Dreadnought. That gives us 18 raw strikes by the time of D1 sunsetting, or year 4. So that is why 18 is our goal for this video. Even things out and give us fresh encounters for this brand new content. So with that said, let's jump into the EDZ with our first new strike already mentioned in the rewrite, the Old Blood. If you want more details, you can check out that video, but the strike notes we go into will be we take on a new Red Legion commander and stop his assault on Trostland. But what I did not mention was the incentive to play this strike again and again and again. As previously mentioned, strike-specific loot will come from these strikes. I would like a weapon and armor piece from each one. That way things flow in terms of difficulty as well, since the Old Blood will be the easiest of these new strikes. So with that, we'll be getting our class item and a rocket launcher, known as Elamos Screams. A solo rocket launcher that with every shot has a sunspot where the blast went off, or something like that. Make these legendary weapons kind of like pinnacle weapons from year 2. Make them powerful, make them strong, but make them easy, but make them grindable to obtain. That way we have incentive to continue to play these content over and over and over again. But here's where things really get fun. Post-campaign campaigns. Beyond Light has a really fun and wider range of post-campaign content. Empire Hunts and Born in Darkness are our main 2. And I don't know about you guys, but Europa is lacking a little bare in terms of strikes. So is Dreaming City. Oh, look at that, 2 main campaign plots involving the Fallen in Darkness. Well, isn't this convenient? Alright, yeah, so it's pretty obvious to all of this. Let's handle Empire Hunts first. Now, the way I was thinking about this is 2 major things, one of which is tying into the raid. The other is giving us an interesting aftermath of Aramis' supposed death. But I think with this strike, we can have both as well. Zavala and Deverex will be running tactical on this mission. The name of the strike shall be Winter's Ghost. Basic story of the strike shall be as follows. Dramax was a former baron under the House of Winter and joined Aramis to reclaim the system, getting up to her court, or her council. Since her death and the deaths of those close, Dramax takes the reins as a former baron and rising Kell of Winter to strike back and claim the House of Salvation Kellship for himself. It is your goal to stop him. For the strike, our path will take us down the road of the Technocrat, getting down towards Clovis Bray Exoscience and to Creation. The area with the giant head, to be precise. What I would think will be a fun mechanic will be not only will he use stasis, but also arc shields like Omnigul. Bossum will also have a powerful captain, Rakshi, fighting the other Guardians and Dramax. The entire strike, we could show Fallen in Winter colors and Fallen in Salvation colors having a mini civil war. Just an idea to show the house is fracturing without Aramis' leadership. After killing Dramax, we also kill Rakshi, and read a message she was carrying. Orders from Atrax, telling Rakshi to kill Dramax before he found the crypt. This way we can handle both a tie into the raid and with more obvious references to this deep stone crypt, and we get more clear visual of the house breaking apart. Thus, we have a pretty solid conclusion to the Empire hunt. Lastly, for loot, we'll begin our class leg armor along with a sword, Blade of Winter, our second stasis weapon, this time being a sword. I was kind of thinking it will be like the arc sword, I legitimately do not remember it, where in which case it will fire off stasis beams left and right. With that done, our third strike is going to be ending the off Born in Darkness. While one of these strikes will be handling Fallen, our next goes to another big race, the Taken. Doing some numbers, even with the DCV, both Fallen and Taken have 2 strikes in the whole game dedicated to them, so I want to add to them. And which race is clearly the closest to the darkness but the Taken? And the biggest Taken nest happens to be the Dreaming City. So, for this, the story will be simple. Either Elsie or Anna will be tactical for this and go ahead. Reason for this is their ties to the quest line itself. Elsie has a direct tie to the darkness and acts as our guide through most of the post-game campaign, but Anna has ties to Elsie as well as act as a good backup in case. Out of universe, this would just be for some new lines of dialogue. See, for part 5, I wanted to be only a 2-step quest. Step 1 is to run this strike to see the full power of the darkness displayed. And well, to get that, you need a Taken heart, only found in Fromia, Protector of Coria. A giant Taken Minotaur found within the spine of Caries. The idea of this strike is you land where the raid will begin and move down towards the spine. You will unlock certain gates to progress in fighting a rather large Taken throughout the strike, watching him run into the Ascendant Realm. Eventually, the strike will conclude in the misty plains of the Dreaming City. The Taken would use the mist for cover and strike from the shadows. Think X's crash with Taken. Yeah, it makes the strike worse, but it could work. Strike loot this time will be the chest piece for old class and the fusion rifle, Blighted Heart. It will be a void and arc fusion rifle, being able to switch between each damage type, like Murmur. And for aesthetics, we're thinking Grasp of Malik type vibes here. So with that said, that gives us our 2 big post-campaign strikes along with a climax in the EDZ for the new Light campaign. But that's only 3 strikes of the 6 I wanted to introduce. Well, Bungie said Beyond Light will be showing us every single race reacting to the darkness. So let's show with these next 2. With the darkness now firmly on our doorstep, I believe that in terms of story, seeing how other races react to the darkness returning, and Guardian efforts shift to Europa, which would give them more time to enact plans. And we will see that in these brand new strikes and quest lines, or series of quests. These quests will be something like Taken War, only with some rebranding and new storylines. This will be known as Darkness Rising. It'll be on 3 different locations, Nessus, the Moon, and the Cosmodrome. I'll bring up the drone for later. For now, we'll focus on Nessus. Since we destroyed Argos, the very core of Nessus, the Vex will be scrambling to regain their foothold on the planet. Especially since most of the Cabal have now left, fallen more scattered than ever before, and the Guardians now focus on Europa. The quest will include a few reused adventures as story missions, and conclude with a strike itself. So the strike's going to begin at Artifact's Edge, in which case you can go through this door here, and make your way down to the planet's core below. Zavala and Ikora are going to be running tactical this time, kind of like Ikora and Cade with the Nexus strike back in D1. From there, you go down the inner workings of Nessus and battle different Vex mines here and there. Either a holdout section or holding out against a massive Hydra who is stopping the players from getting through the different Vex gates. Again, I'm better at context and story than the rather actual mechanics and gameplay. As for the mine, I'm thinking it's going to be a giant Cyclops, slowly rotating around a shield in which players will need to deactivate in order to deal damage. This will be done with different elemental shields and cannons. Again, things Sepiks perfected. Once you kill the boss, that will conclude the quest and strike, obviously. The strike loot here is going to be gauntlets, ironic, and be given an auto rifle. This will be a solar version of Gnawing Hunger, or think something like Atheon's Epilogue. It may sound overpowered, but with the changes made to bullet hose auto rifles, I think it could be a bit balanced. Alright, so I think this is actually probably my favorite strike of the whole bunch, and I'm super jazzed about this one. The second strike on the moon will be dubbed the Mad Knight. So let's get some background here. In Destiny 1, one of Crota's top commanders was Sardon. The Hive on the moon are currently fractured, and with the death of Crota, Omnigul, Hashladun, Hive are running out of commanders and fast. We are aware the Hive can resurrect some beings such as Omnigul, Crota, and Fogoth, and more. So seeing that Sardon could be resurrected, and that he was the one who slayed countless Guardians, it'll be a good idea to go and bring back the old commander. And for a little fun story, Omnigul attempted to destroy Rasputin back in the Dark Below, so here's what I'm thinking. After being resurrected by the Hive, Sardon assumes command of the Brood and wants to strike Rasputin directly. We spawn in Eris's camp and move down towards the Archer's line, where we fight a small Hive group just outside Rasputin's bunker. We move into the bunker and fight a bunch of Hive and get deeper into the area. Rather than going to where the bunker originally ended, we access a new door and go deeper into down to Rasputin's systems. We will eventually reach Rasputin's core on the moon, resembling something like the Destiny 1 Rasputin in the Cosmodrome. Here he will fight Sardon. Sardon will be protected by a shield that will only drop when the adds are dead. Once his shield drops, his power is unleashed as Dark Burn from Destiny 1 takes over. Jumping abilities are gone, damage is dealt at higher places, and he enjoys those up-close attacks to defend himself. This means Sardon will focus on one player during his 3 DPS phases, giving the other 2 players hero moments to save the third and deal damage. When not dealing damage, he will return to a console and stay out of your way when dealing with mobs. When Sardon is down, you are given the helmet strike loot as the armor piece, and the weapon will be a shotgun, Morta Actium, an arc shotgun that does increased damage on Hive bosses and can also cause enemies to be slowed after destroying arc shields. So with that said, that covers all our major armor pieces. Please note that all armor and weapons are not even remotely guaranteed drops. These will have about a 10 to 15% chance of dropping at the end of each strike, meaning they are rare, meaning you have to run them several times, and it is a 1 reward per these runs. This will then incentivize players to continue to grind in attempts to get these god roll weapons and armor. Each weapon having unique abilities and adept versions on higher difficulty. This way, hardcore players get the rewards they deserve, and more casuals, people who can't get a good team together, can still get suitable rewards for their efforts. So I mentioned earlier that I was debating between if these pieces of gear should be ornaments for the strikes or whole actual armor pieces. I feel like ornaments will be a nice reward, but hardcore players aren't going to spend hours upon hours grinding for cosmetics, when a simple purchase of silver is also an option. So instead, these strikes that are already listed will stick with the armor piece and weapon, while our final strike here is where the ornament rewards come in. Tying in one last time to my new light rewrite, this strike is wholly new, taking us to the Cosmodrome, specifically the route used for Cade's stash. In my rewrite, I created a fallen baron from the devils named Rexus, Devil Baron. The implication was that you would kill the baron, but what if the baron escaped as well? And here we see what will happen if guardians ignore threats like these. Rexus will take a team to the old devil's lair, rally the last remnants of the devils in the old territory to try to escape to make a house elsewhere. Zaval's got tactical on this one, and he guides you from the devil's lair. You fight through a spider tank, punch into the lair, and move up the massive towers towards a small evacuation center with a catch overhead. Like Omnigul, we get a new arena. At the top half of the dome will be shattered, open with a catch inside. While the top half of the arena is open, the sides will still look like large ladders. So what we get then is Rexus, the sharpshooter, using invisibility and wire rifles to take shots at you. It is your job to locate him, deal enough damage, and make him visible, and then go to town. While it's not much really in terms of detail, this gives players a unique encounter with a new area, new players, and a nostalgic location for old veterans. And we get another Fallen themed strike that ties into both Beyond Light and New Light. Again, go watch the rewrite for details. Now, I teased loot earlier, and here was what I was thinking. Rather than unique armor pieces, this strike will drop strike-specific ornaments, each part getting at least a 20% drop rate. That way, when grinding or running for the weapon, getting some cool ornament designs will also fall into place. And lastly, the weapon is going to be an arc sniper rifle, Devil's Bow. An arc sniper that deals more damage on the fallen bosses and has better hipfire accuracy than most snipers. Ultimately, the lack of strikes in Destiny 2 and the further reason to no longer play these strikes is slowly becoming laughable. Since Crystal Osiris, strikes have been slowly becoming nothing more than glorified story missions, with little to no incentive to play them at all. Outside of Nightfall, playing regular strikes mean nothing to me at all, other than busy work and another powerful reward for my other characters. It's frankly going to get to the point where strikes are phased out completely, as so few new strikes appear. I'm aware that Devil's Lair and Fallen Saber are returning, and while that is good, I think splashing in some amount of creativity wouldn't hurt either to truly make this feel like a massive expansion. No offense to Bungie and the design teams at all. The sheer fact they got Beyond Light out at all amazes me. But at the same time, at the time of writing this and recording this, Bungie is adding new loot to core playlists, but 5 weapons overall isn't going to cut it for strikes. especially when 3 are Nightfall Civic. I love running strikes back in Destiny 1, memes or no, but in Destiny 2, I feel no enjoyment in running these strikes at all. I groan whenever I need to run more than 3 strikes a week. That's how bad things have gotten. But hopefully with Witch Queen coming out and Bungie expanding their teams, the best idea that comes to my mind is just to add a few more strikes next time. Strikes serve as either climaxes of a story or precursors to raid. What's more exciting to you? Killing an enemy leader one-on-one with a team of friends in a unique location? But still, look at Destiny 1 again for examples. Omnigul was the climax of a story and a precursor to the raid. Bond Brothers and Darkblade served to develop the storyline of the Taken War, Cabal Society, and Eris' character, along with High Society as a whole. All the strikes from Rise of Iron served as a true Splicer war, showing how crafty the Felon can really be. In Destiny 2, the Arms Dealer continues the Red War, as does the Inside Terminus. Exodus Crash gives Failsafe some closure, and the Corrupted and Warden and Nothing do a good setup for raids and continuing storylines, but look at Servitude's Song, Inverted Spire, Lake of Shadows, Mercury Strikes, Broodhole. They don't add anything to the story. Now granted, the same thing can be said about base game Destiny 1, but I also think by Taken King, Bungie knew what they wanted strikes to be, and yet they just weren't. Especially in base game, and especially now as they continue to be recycled story missions with nothing else really added to the flow of the game. Thank you all for watching, have yourselves a great night, and take care.